hello, darling, and welcome to the Just Jax podcast. Hi, I'm Jax, and I help you find the can in your cat. When we challenge our cats, miracles happen. Because when I challenged mine of I can't draw, I can't paint, and I can't color, imagine my surprise when I discovered what I can do is create a 21-foot garden mural that was recently featured not once but twice on the front page of our local newspaper. Next up, I challenge the I'm no author, no artist, and no cursive writing specialist, but what I can do is self publish 3 books for my kick ass cursive writing curriculum, Crack the Cursive Code. I'm a jack of all trades, but what I master at is helping ordinary people like me to do extraordinary things through laughter, tears, life changing stories, because metaphors are my jam. Together we can find the can in your can'ts, the do's in your don'ts, and the wills in your won'ts. I'm so excited for you. Let's go. Well, hello, my darlings, and welcome back to the Just Jacks podcast. I am back in my home in Washington State, and this has been a very unsettling experience for me for the first time. For you see, when I went back to Calgary, I I never knew, but I was on a gardening mission, and that gardening mission was to see if I had roots there, to see if my social circle would be there if I wanted one, and if my family was going to be there, if I wanted to engage with my family. And the answer was a resounding yes, that I would be very welcomed back to Calgary. And I had left in quite a super chaos Jack's way, and it has that just subsided? I would say so, only in the fact that I have nothing to do with that social circle anymore. But being back here, I'm missing there way more than I ever have before, and I really want to spend more time there. And this is the first time since living in the United States that I really missed being back there. And I have no idea how it's going to happen, but I am now putting that on my dream board to spend way more time up there than I do now. I go maybe once or twice a year, and I spend a maximum of about 10 to 12 days up there. And it's time now to increase that with the current political climate and my fact that I'm a green card holder. It's a far-fetched concern, but it still is a concern. And to decide to stay here where I have manifested all of my dream board here to the maximum amount that I would allow myself to be blessed and receive. I have received it here in Washington State. I have grown into the person that I wanted to become. I have learned about what I want, beginning of what I want in my life and how I can go out and get it. It's like this last trip home, I just grew up. It's that the wisdom that I learned like in the last episode where I got context to who my mom was and who I am. And it was fascinating when I was up there being around my mom. It was different this time. There are still some feelings there that I will continue to work on as they arrive. But it was interesting being there for her and helping her see through some of her victim mindset, whether or not it worked or not, but it also reinforced some of mine. If you've heard my podcast at least once, you'll hear my little blurb at the end that I have shift merchandise. Well, there is something, if you look at the word shift, the only difference between shit and shift is the F. And you have to put an F in your shit in order to make a shift. And that F, to me, people have used fun and frolic and frenzy and faith and everything that begins with an F. Fornication, which could go under fun, I guess. And nothing makes the shift other than forgiveness. And forgiveness to me has nothing to do with forgetting because there are some fires that my mom has set with the matches that she used, that the damage of the fire is still there, but for some reason, if you have context, it makes a world of difference, and the context comes in when you see your parent as an adult, a failing, miserable adult, and when you realize who they are and what skills they have, and if you would hire them for a parenting job, it would probably be a resounding no. Like with my mom, there was no way she could have been a parent in regards to everything that she'd been through, and so I understand now why she had the matches and why they were lit, and I'm also responsible for understanding where the boundaries are and what she is allowed to do and be around me. That's where I really come to understand the 2 different people that our parents are. They're the parent that we have all the hopes and dreams and we expect to have love from, and all of our identity and, our affirmation and our acceptance and everything is based on that parent character, but then we tend to forget that they are human beings and some of them really just suck. And my human beings, my mom went above and beyond to do everything she could to provide for us. And I was invisible in all of that. Is that her fault? Well, I guess if I want to heap some more shame on her for what she was able to do because she stepped up. And did she step up emotionally? Well, no, but she stepped up. I have more of a step-up mom than some others do, and yet I carry around all these wounds, and I never put the F in there of forgiveness of letting her be that failing adult. And when I'm around that failing adult, I am 59-year-old Jacqueline. But one of the things that with my mom is that if you wanna make a shift, there has to be forgiveness because I also had to forgive myself because I was around my children, and my children were also placed in that position of I'm mom and I'm Jacqueline, and Jacqueline went through a lot of shit, and Jacqueline had a real hard time. Jacqueline needs some grace, and it's been difficult because I failed in some ways as a mom, being able to be that emotional person for my kids. I never created a safe space for them to express their emotions, their feelings, or what's been going on. It's only now that I'm learning to allow them to feel what they're feeling. And it's tough because I have to allow myself to feel what I'm feeling. But in order to make the shift and you gotta put an F in your shit, and the only way that I have found is to allow them to be the human being that they are and channel that feelings that you have towards the human being. And if there is no mom sighting, like I saw quite a few sightings of my mom this week when I was there, which was really nice because I can validate and glean the good things from her. And I do understand that there are some people that never see a good side of their mom, and I get that too because that was a lot my experience. Even though when I was there, she continued to take pot shots at me. For some reason, one of her favorite sayings is that it's all my fault. Like it's all Jackie's fault. It's all her fault. And there was something that came up that she was did wrong, and I was on the group call and automatically said, "Well, it's all my fault." Now, even though her voice was playful and it was a joke, it still was said, and it's been said multiple times, many, many times, and I get tired of it because I'm just tired of everything being my fault, even if I have nothing to do with it or I'm nowhere around it. And I was talking to my son about it, and he gets defensive. "Well, mom, she meant it as a joke this time," and I get that, but you have to stop and see that it's continuous for me. And then there was another situation where, as I said in a previous podcast, that I killed my mom's bird when I was 2, and she brought it up again this time, and it was this time was a little bit more disturbing because she brought up about the fact that I killed the bird, and then she made a comment about how the bird used to eat plaster or plastic off the curtains, and that it was gonna probably die of that anyway because it ate that stuff all the time. And this was the first time that she ever admitted that there was something wrong with the bird, that my fall may have never killed it. But then she went on to say, "Well, you probably did it on purpose." And I'm like, No, I, never did that on purpose." And it was disturbing even that when I stood up for myself, she still had this idea that I would do that on purpose, and I'm like, "Well, I have no anyway." And I realize now that that is the problem with being around my mother is that she continuously wants to make me into a horrible person. So I don't know if that's so she can justify her behavior or what. But the whole purpose of my story in telling you this is that the validation I had was that my son finally saw it because this has been going on for the longest time and no one would see it. And it was almost like she hid it from other people. And I always got why I had to be a more dutiful daughter and all of this mind fuckery. And I just had it. And it was so interesting being home this time because the same old patterns were there, but I was different because I allowed her to be that fucked up human being that she was and realized that that's not my mom saying those things to me, that the one who raised me and I put on a pedestal and all these things, that woman would never say anything to me like that, right? The one that I am picturing. But this woman this other woman, I almost said her name, that's unfair. This other woman who goes by her name on her driver's license, that woman is the broken one, and that's the one that's talking to me, and that's the one that's threatened by me, and that's the one that has said all this kind of stuff. Do I wish I saw less of that woman? Yes, I do, but that's who she is. And I guess the F in shift, when you want to put your F in your F in shit. If you want to put F in shit and make it a shift, there needs to be the forgiveness. And the forgiveness is realizing that your parents are just human beings, and if I want the grace from my children for the fuck ups I've done and what I walked into, I have to give grace. It kind of grace flows uphill, but I find that grace comes in context where you understand who they are as a human being and you can treat them as such with your laying your boundaries to that human being and understanding that that mom person or dad person, if they ever tried to manipulate you, that would never be your mom or your dad person. That would be the human being that they are. And the mom and dad person would never hurt their child like that. And if you very rarely see that kind of mom or dad experience, then you very rarely have a mom or dad. You have more of a person that's using that experience to manipulate you. And that was a very big wakening up for me because I realized that she can think it's all my fault, but that has nothing to do with me. And she can take pot shots of me and tell me that I'm a horrible person, but the only time that has bearing is if I believe it within myself. Because if I believe it within myself, then that's why it hurts. Because then it's true. The only time water can get into a boat is if you let it in. And the only time you can let in that horrible stuff is if you believe it first. I believe that there's something wrong with me, or I believe that I'm a bad person. So then when she has that, it rings true because it's true first with me. But for me, when she is that bitch that I can set as many boundaries as I want. I can choose to be around them. I can say or do whatever I need to do because that's how I would treat someone else who treated me as such. But if I have a mom sighting, I can respond to the mom sighting. And I have to tell you that the majority of my visit was all mom. There was a little bit of the other siding when we had our drive home, but when I confronted about that conversation, my mom was there. And I have to say, it was really nice to be around my mom because there are some things that my mom did that are kick ass. And I would love to emulate and become some of the parts of her that are just admirable, and it took a while for me to find those when I realized that all I was looking at was the stuff that she was struggling with, and when I finally gave her some context of who she was, then I also gave myself the same context. It's almost like the forgiveness of her also gave the forgiveness of me, and it made an understanding of how we have had, the same generational thing when my younger son appeared the favorite and my older son does not. And so I've recreated the entire thing that happened to me and happened to my mom, and it's now in the second generation. And as I'm doing this podcast, it just came to me that that's what's been happening. And so I need to work around that in some way to reverse it since I can see it, do what I can. And I can be the biggest gift to my kids by being the most accountable and that to me is the greatest gift for them so that they can get over whatever shit they need to get over. so that they can get on to the next stage of their life. If I led to listen to my son take a little shot at me this weekend when I was there, but again, like I told you in my previous podcast, it allows him to deal as an adult with the stuff that I dealt with as an adult, and he's got a lot of stuff on his plate. I have quite a colorful past. His dad is just ramping up his experience. My mom has made things difficult. It's been very hard for him actually to just be able to say, "This is my family," and invite someone into it because it would take a special person to be able to handle everything that's going on right now. Luckily, my life has been chaos free, but I do feel the winds of change coming, and I have no idea what that's going to be, but I can feel it. There were 2 experiences there that showed me um, some of my roots. And what was really interesting is an experience I had because my mom thinks that I'm such a horrible person because I put some pretty strong boundaries with my boys. And I understand that in the parenting world, there is an idea that love has no boundaries in regards to it being a tougher parent, and I just was the type that never wanted to have to repeat myself and play the long game. So if falling asleep on me was unacceptable at 3, then it was not acceptable at all. And so I was kind of an all or nothing type of parent despite all of my strangeness. Boys are professional sleepers, and so am I. He brags about that all the time. But one of the situations I had with my boys is I wanted them to be mindful of someone else in their life that they wanted to take care of because they were very self-centered, and I had a hard time dealing with that. And one of the ways that I needed to make a boundary with myself is that my boys were Hoovers. And if I what I mean by that is a Hoover is a vacuum for those that you may not may have never heard of that. But if I brought something like a case of blueberries or a container of strawberries or carrots or cereal or anything like that, they would devour it and barely leave like, they just inhaled everything. And so I made it very strong and made their life quite miserable and telling them that there are more than there's just 2 people in this house. There's a 3rd person, there's myself, and I would like the option to have some if I want some. So my son now is 27 years of age, and we were going around and doing some shopping, and I dragged his ass everywhere. I'm very thankful that his love language is quality time because he made it quite easy for me to just do and be and hang out with him. And we talked the entire time. And this one time at the store, he saw this huge caramel apple with chocolate on it, and it was huge, like, they really did a big apple, and as we were walking out of the store, I tell him that I have to go to the washroom, and I had left my hair dry, and I have a ritual that I do with my hair now that allows my hair to look relatively good curly, and that is that I let it dry naturally, and then I just use a little bit of water and mousse and reapply the mousse in my hair, and that provides the cast, and I break the cast, and it looks fabulous. But we had already been shopping, and I had to go get the mousse, so I walked into the bathroom, and I was just wetting my hair and applying the mousse in the bathroom there at the grocery store when a gentleman walks into the bathroom, and I realize I'm in the men's room, and I burst out laughing out, "Oh!" And I just walked around, and my son looks at me, and I walk around the other side, and it was very interesting because the Asian gentleman walked in, my son was telling the story, walked into the room, saw me there, walked out, looked at the sign, looked at my son, and then looked at me again, and then I realized and then my son goes, "Oh, it's my mom," and I run around on the other side, and I'm still doing my hair in the bathroom, and this woman is just walks in with her daughter and kinda takes a real wide berth of me as if I am, like, homeless or something. I'm like, "No, I'm just taking care of myself where I can," because there was no way I could go home and do my hair because I was going somewhere else right after we were going shopping. And, yeah, I guess I just thought of it now, I probably could have done my hair there, but where would the story be in that? So, my son is just smiling and laughs at me, and it takes and it's very fascinating because I can do very strange things like that and never embarrass him. And it's funny because his dad used to get so mad because I would do things like that and the boys would never be embarrassed, but they would be embarrassed by him. And there were times when I had to talk Morgan into doing something to work through his embarrassment with his dad, and it was tough. Yet I never brought that feeling up with them. And here was an example of, again, he goes, "Oh my god, it better not be," and he heard my laugh, and it's like, "Oh, it's my mom." So on the way out, if he would have had a problem with that, I would have felt it in just on our way out, but there was nothing like that. We stopped at the garbage so he could take all the garbage out because he was gonna eat the apple right there and then. And I'm like, "Okay, I totally forget about it." All I know is that he's hoovering that apple, and I saw him look at the apple, and there was a triangle piece left on the very bottom, and I'd say maybe about, looking at my fingers, probably about almost 2.5 inches on the bottom, and he came to a full physical stop with the apple, and he looked at the apple, and he looked at me, and he looked at the apple, and we got into the car, and he stood there like a soldier just holding this apple, and I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing?" He goes, do you want a bite?" And I thought, "Oh." And he was You could see when he stopped, it was fascinating. It was almost like he had a panic because he never offered me any, and he thought he had eaten all of it, and when he stopped, he realized that he had left just a small amount. And I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll have a bite." And then he was just about to finish it. You could tell he was looking at it and bringing it closer to his mouth, but he put it down and he sat there. And I'm like, chew, 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 and it was very tasty. And so he goes, "Do you want another bite?" And I said, Yes." So I took another bite and he looked and he was going to take a third bite and he just sat there like a soldier. And I'm like, chew, 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 chew. And I had it and it was just fantastic. And he goes, "Are you done or do you want one more bite?" And as luck would have it, or as him and his training of me as a mom, so I did have the 3rd bite, and it was exactly the amount that I wanted, and I released him, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm good," and he finished up the rest of it, and it was just the most amazing thing because he took care of me, and it was really nice to be taken care of this weekend and being around my son, and it was good because I realized that he is the diffuser on his end, and I'm the diffuser on my end, and that when we're together, we work together at diffusing stuff, but we never have to worry about it with each other. We got to talk a lot of things through, and it was a really good visit. It was validating for me in a lot of ways that when I went and saw all my friends, and they're friends of the past, they were people that I had basically dropped off for the 11 years that I'd been here. There's been some touch and go, but the reception that when I got there was just overwhelming. It was fantastic, and it made me realize that I do have a support network back home if I want to spend more time there and can just you don't have to worry about, like, things like the freeze that we have here that you can't get back into the cycle of things or with people, and that was basically proven to me that I would be welcomed with open arms back there, except for one person, and I'm gonna tell you that I'm the type of person everything works out for me, and I'm the type of person that is protected at all times because I was raised that if you are in a city and you are near someone's house, that you are to drop in or let them know you're there so that you can just see them or just drop in if you wanted to. The drop in part is a little harder now, but I could still comment or do whatever. And my mom and I used to call her my best friend, but I guess we're on a real hiatus now, live on the same street. My mom's on the northeast side, and my friend is on the southwest side of this intersection. And so I had to go to the intersection. I was going to have breakfast with a friend of mine, and I was on the intersection, and I went through it because it was okay to go through it because I had a meeting, and I had to get there to the meeting, and I had a certain time to be there, and I did. But on the way back, I was dreading going down that street because I just didn't wanna go through there, and I felt so bad driving by there and not stopping. So when I was coming into when I was coming into the lady's house that I was visiting, she is only 4 blocks away from where this intersection is, and the Google Maps took me everywhere to get to her. It was a huge cul-de-sac to find out that I got to the end, and all I did was have to turn right. So, for some strange reason, I turned right and was driving, and next thing you know, I looked up and I was completely lost. I had no idea where I was. I saw this road, I saw McEwen Road, I'm like, "Where the hell is that?" I was so disorientated, I kept going, and then it was Harvest Hills Boulevard, and I'm like, "Oh my god, where am I?" I'm like, "Okay, I think that's in the north still." Like, I felt like I was teleported because I had no idea where I was driving. I was completely turned around. And in some areas of Calgary, they have um, done a lot of construction where I do get turned around because it's a little different than I remember. So then as I was making a U-turn, I saw a street that I knew, but I was like, how the hell did I get that far north? Like, I'm just like it was just blew my mind because there was a whole street in between that I bypassed, and I did a U-turn and saw the street. "Oh, I know that street." Did a U-turn again. I came to a stop sign, I climatized myself. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's the arena over there I used to work at." And I knew where I was. I turned right, and I ended up on the highway, and I completely bypassed that street, and I was teleported. No idea how that happened, but my psyche, my mind, my brain could it just wouldn't it felt unsafe to go down that street and totally diverted me to a completely different area that I had no idea how I got there. But yet I was able to bypass it and feel safe, and I wanted to thank my brains for that. But it was very interesting for this woman was in my life for a good portion of my life. And I made some general reach outs, to get a feel of what was going on, and both of them all I remember is that if you ever watched an episode of Get Smart when in the '60s, Maxwell Smart, he was the original Inspector Gadget, and there was a scene where the doors would just close, all these doors would close, and that's what it felt like reaching out to her. And I realized that one root there, I'm unsure of how good it is, if it's shriveling up or if it just needs some time because it's had some damage done to it. But that root really showed me that root is to be left alone. And that was a hard thing for me, because she was one of my core people, but at the same time, I am a firm believer of reason, season, lifetime, and I no longer want to chase people. That's one of the things that I found out about this going back to visit all my friends, that they were very happy to see me and want to know whenever I'm in town. So if I'm in town more, then I can see them more. And because there's an effort, I want to be around people that want to be around me. And that, I guess, is the biggest lesson of what I found out there, and it's gonna be interesting to be down here for still missing there quite a bit, and I go into my job tomorrow, and everything goes back to the life I had here, and I get to decide and work through where my roots are going to be, and if they can be in 2 places, or do I need to stay in one, or what's going to decide. So I'm looking forward to seeing what opens up now because it's time to make a new dream board because I want to spend more time there. And I really have a lot of my dreams answered here. So if I dream big enough, then I can be in both places is what my hope is. You can send me a message or contact me at any time through Facebook or Instagram or my email address of justjackspodcast@gmail.com. I have a kick-ass cursive writing curriculum called Crack the Cursive Code, where I take an adventure story and have children learn the pangram sentence, which makes cursive writing super efficient and fun to learn and maintain. You can find all of that at crackthecursivecode.com. You can find my Shift, Loser, and Forthwith merchandise on my website as well. I hope that we can turn some of that shit in your life and make a shift to put the F like the fertilizer so you can now make it into fertilizer and bloom where you're planted. Jack's out.